Hi, it's Jerry Roberts back with a new episode of Newsmakers, The Plague Year. And today we are talking with School Board President Laura Capps, who I understand is about to announce that you are in fact running for the board. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm jumping in. I'm running for another term on the school board.
Well, it's a very interesting race because in 2016, 4 years ago, there were 3 seats up and only 3 people stepped forward to serve on the board, and that was you and Jackie Reed and Wendy Sims Moten. And now those 3 seats are again up, and you are the first to announce that you are in fact running for the seat. Now, you had a tough race, obviously, that was unsuccessful for supervisor, and I understood that you were kind of in two minds about having another campaign again. What changed your mind?
Well, I do think this will be different than 2016, and I hope that more than 3 people run for 3 seats because I do believe that campaigns are healthy for our democracy and good to have a contest of ideas, and competition is good and will make us better board members. So a lot has changed. I mean, a pandemic has hit, and my campaign for supervisor was all about what's best for our kids, whether it's the high poverty rate that we have that we need to change, or air quality in our district, in our county. And now, I am committed to what's best for the kids in this county. And with this pandemic, nothing could be more important, arguably, than how our schools are run, not for just parents and kids and families and teachers, but also for the entire community, because our economy is dependent on our schools. Everything's dependent on the quality of our schools and our education. And I'm committed to use that experience that I've fostered over the last 3.5 years to continue for another 4 years on the school board here in Santa Barbara. By the way, the schools that, that made me who I am. I'm a product of these schools, and I'm a mom of a 4th grader. I'm a parent, active parent on the board, and that parent voice, I think, is also really important. And that was a key reason for me wanting to continue to serve on the school board as that parent voice.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to say, put the pandemic aside, but put the pandemic aside. So you're an incumbent member of the school board. So you're running on the record of the last 4 years. And, if you look at kind of the basics in terms of test scores and the differential between, white and the achievement gap, white and students of color, not much has changed. What's going to be different if you get another 4-year term?
The continuation of my leadership, and I think that I've proven to be a school board member who's ready and willing to kick the tires and push for accountability, push for transparency, not just be a rubber stamp, but actually really be that voice of the community and say, hey, what's going on here? Because really it's an oversight position. That's the job of a school board member. I don't work for the district. I work well with the district, but I don't work for them. I really see the job as working for the community and pushing and saying, yeah, why are the test scores stagnant in these schools? But yet look at Franklin, and their test scores have just soared. So on your specific question about test scores, I'm all for looking for solutions of what's working well, not just within our school district, but what's working well within the state with other districts, et cetera. And I think now we have a superintendent who's particularly keen on finding those solutions too, and saying yes to them, and saying, for example, what's happening at Franklin, can we export that? Can we do what they do so brilliantly by hiring retired teachers in the classroom tutoring kids? Now we could be doing that remotely, distance-wise. So what's different is 4 more years and experience that I've had, and just building on that reputation that I've earned, even from people who might not agree with me politically, to say, hey, she's somebody who's paying attention, who's listening, and isn't shy about making sure we have the kind of accountability we need to forge progress.
I mean, the other part that was weird about the 2016 dynamic was that the superintendent, Kerry Matsuoka, was already in place.
Right.
So he was kind of operating the district, and then you 3 came in. So it was kind of a weird situation. Now you've just hired a new superintendent, Hilda Maldonado, and I know you you led that search. Uh, what's different that you see in her approach and his approach that would lead people to believe that things are going to improve?
Well, it's one of the reasons why we hired her, and I was so pleased. We had a competitive search of 50 candidates, but in LAUSD, a huge second biggest school district in the entire country, her job was to head up partnerships for the district. So that means really being a person who forges alliances and is out in the community and says to a foundation, oh, here's how you can help us with our schools. So a collaborative nature that I think really sets her apart. And also the experience of working just in the months that she did on a pandemic, leading the fact that she was in charge of their grab and go food service, which is an issue I'm so passionate about. Child hunger in our county is so high. She actually oversaw that. So I think we're going to see much more of an outward facing school district that's much more like the way I hope to be as a school board member, inclusive of ideas and saying yes to things and all of the goodwill that's out there and that exists, and being able to utilize that and not just say yes for the sake of saying yes, but actually connecting and making good happen because you know how to get stuff done and be effective.
And Kerry Matsuoko, let's face it, I mean, he left a year before his contract was up. He didn't seek to have it renewed. And it seemed to me the school board's attitude was sort of, here's your hat, what's your hurry? Do you think that that was part of the reason that he struggled so much, because he lacked those kind of outward facing skills or did not manifest them in any case?
Yeah, I mean, these are political jobs in the sense, not straight up partisan politics, but it's really important, especially in Santa Barbara with a community that cares so much and is really involved and reads our local journalistic papers and outlets. I mean, you can't kind of get away with not being really out in the community and being a community leader. And that's what this job entails, especially now with all eyes on the district with a pandemic and how our kids are going to be taught in the months and potentially, a year going forward. So I think it's a key ingredient to being successful at this job. And so far what we've seen with Hilda is that this is a strength of hers. This is who she is as a person. It's her warmth. It's the way she's wired. It's the job that she had in a very big district. So she brings a lot of experience. And it's, frankly, that's what I try to do as a member. I mean, I spend a lot of hours answering emails and calling up parents, especially the ones that are really mad. And I sometimes say, here's my cell phone and let's talk about this. And then you can find more consensus. And that's the job, really. It's the job.
Okay. One of the main issues over the last couple of years has been raised by a group that, kind of a loose alliance, Fair Education, it's called. And they have objected generally to the emphasis that it was been placed on so-called equity issues, which they have seen, as I understand it, in conflict somehow with basic literacy, basic traditional teaching skills. Hilda seems to be continuing on that equity plane. Do you feel like the Fair Education people represent a substantial portion of the parents whose kids are in schools, or do you consider them to be more of a small, kind of minor group, and their concerns are not really mainstream?
It's hard for me to characterize because you said the right word. It is a loose affiliation. I'm pleased that their voices aren't so loud in our school board meetings now. There's many more voices that have come forward, but it's hard to know sort of who they are. I mean, really, it's a lawsuit that's underway. I have to say, I think that's quite unfortunate that they've taken that tact. It's certainly, they have the right to take that tact, but a crux of their complaints is misuse of taxpayer funding, yet ironically, they're costing taxpayer and taking away from academics in order for us to wage these, respond to these lawsuits, of which we've pretty much prevailed in every turn. So it's hard for me to characterize. I think, I'll just speak as a parent. I don't see this big differentiation between equity and excellence. I think that you can do both things at a successful principal does both things at once. A successful teacher does both things at once. They take care of the kids who are struggling and the kids who have so many adverse impacts going into the classroom that morning, and they also help those overachievers, you know, achieve their dreams. I just don't see it as this either or, that it's that those that some people want to make it into this binary choice that you're either on one side of the fence or the other. And I don't see Hilda as being on one side of the fence or the other. It's for all the kids.
All right, last question. Obviously, everybody wants to get the kids back in school.
Yeah.
For all kinds of reasons, mental hygiene of parents being one of them, as I understand it from my daughters. But also, you know, we can't really get the economy going again,
Right.
as a practical matter. So, you know, we're now under the governor's order because the county's on the watch list for the virus. Do you see any chance that students are going to be back in classrooms anytime in 2020?
I hope so. It's all up to us. It's up to us and how we as a community deal with this pandemic. And that's one message I want to say loud and clear, that this is a community decision, really a process. If we turn our numbers around and we practice social distancing and wearing our masks, and our leaders enforce that, in my opinion, they should, then we can see a turnaround. I also think I want to say, you know, again, this is not theoretical for me. I have a fourth grader, a rising fourth grader. And so I understand the pressures, not all the pressures certainly, but many of the pressures facing parents. And this is hard. This is really hard. I do think going forward with a distance learning start, that teachers should be in the classroom. And I think that that'll help us also get ready for when kids actually go back into the classroom. So that's one thing I'm going to be pushing for in the next couple of weeks, as these details are getting ironed out of what distance learning will be, is that teachers should be in the classroom. There won't be kids there, so they should be safe from a health perspective and from a virus perspective. But bottom line, kids will be back in the classroom when we get off that watch list and we stop seeing what we saw, you know, record-breaking day after day after day new cases. And that means all of us have to make sacrifices, as we are. And it's hard, but I hope that having kids not be able to go to school is the motivation we all need to behave and be the way that we were in March and April, et cetera, when our numbers were going way, 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 way down. And I think we can do it. Okay.
All right, Laura Capps, running for, I don't know what, I can't say re-election, but running for a second term on the school board. And thanks so much for letting us know about that. And good luck. We'll talk to you as the campaign continues, I'm sure. Thanks.
Thanks, Jerry.